gentlemen of all ages, let's welcome the living legend herself, Tisch McDaniel. The summit is yours.
Wow, I could stand up and take a bow. Thank you. I love Chat GPT. I hardly ever use it because I want to be my authentic self. But for the last summit, I did Chat GPT to get a little poem. So I thought I'm going to do that for this summit. And I put in it, ignite the spark, the time is now. And I did that right before Amber spoke. And what's interesting with what she was saying, that starting now, she is not going to keep playing small. Well, what Chat GPT said, and I know it's a call to action without shouting. The time is now. It signals urgency without panic. It frames you, all of us, as the catalyst, not waiting for permission, not waiting for conditions, just stepping into the moment that's already here. And I want to again highlight Amber. I think this is meant for you. Your action, your time is now. I love meeting new people. Love, love, love. I do not like the first few questions out of someone's mouth when they meet you. How many books have you written? What church do you go to? Are you from this area? That's not so bad. And the list goes on and on and on. I do not want to be defined by the number of books I've written, the church I go to. I also do not want to be defined by the grieving that I have had in my life. Half my family is in a graveyard. My bestest buddy, my brother in love, not brother-in-law, a Vietnam War veteran fighting PTSD. I was his debate partner for many, many years, passed away of cancer 2 years ago. So I had to, many years ago, come to a definition of me without all these extenuating circumstances. I am not going to be defined by grief, defined by almost losing my life. I'm not going to be defined by how many books I've written. So I guess today was the day for us to do the manual thought exercises. I want everyone to pull out a piece of paper or on your phone, because we're going to do another exercise. And I started this many years ago in my event planning with my speakers. I did not want to introduce my speaker and have my books is blah, 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 blah. I wanted to know who they were, define who they were. And there has been, over the last 5 years, several event planners that have asked permission for them to use what I do. And it's like, I have no copyright on it. So think about you, your name in the Webster's Dictionary. So I'm going to pick up the Webster's Dictionary and I'm going to look up Jeff Purdue Atkins. So what you're going to do right now, because we know in a definition, there can be four phrases or maybe just one word. And then at the very end is also that see also and have 3 or 4 words. So I'm going to pick on someone. Sierra, are you available by chance? Come on video. If she's not, then let's see, 1001, 1002. Ah, she must be busy. I didn't want to give her a heads up. She is, if you have not worked with her, she's one of the most amazing mediums I've ever met. And my mother was one. And I stayed away from that for so long until I met Sierra. So since we can't pick, well, Sierra must be listening. Since we can't pick on Sierra, all right, everyone, write down. Now, you know your name is a noun, so write down number one. And while you're writing that down, I'll put down my defined Tisch, a creative, fair, dynamic-driven writer and speaker whose expertise on strategic planning and personal development is world-renowned. All right, let's go to number two. Known for there is no box problem solving. Number three, sought after for presentations, seminars, and keynote addresses that are funny, insightful, and real world. All right, everybody got their three. Number four, a knowledge manager. Number six, always in search of wow. And then now, the moment of truth. C, also, put down 3 words, 2 words, 1 word. Mine are coach, advisor, disruptor. Now, nowhere in there did I put that I've lost half my family. Nowhere in there did I put I survived a near fatal car wreck. That does not define me. That is a circumstance that happened to me and how I choose to deal with that. For many, many, many years, the grief of losing half your family, I'm much like a lot of folks that have said this in past summits and now, you get to the point where you don't want to answer the phone sometimes because there's this history of bad news coming over the phone. Now that we have the electronic age, you see who's calling as opposed to a landline. You have not a clue who's calling in. So many years I just felt anonymous. So many years. And I was only 10 years old feeling that. And wrote a poem and got it published. And I used that all these years later. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, at least 80 years later. And so I carry this poem with me because I have to remind myself, much like what Amber had chatted about, and a lot of folks chat about. Sometimes we don't feel that we are deserving of that. So I'm going to read this real quick. I am here, you are there. Do you see me? Do you dare? All I see are people. Do they see me? Do they care? Do they dare? Being anonymous is easy. Or is it hard? Do I see me? Do I dare? Being anonymous, do I care? And this, and you can see this little piece of paper that I wrote on when I was 10 years old, and it's pretty straggly. I have to remind myself through those transformations that I might feel anonymous. Yes, there's people. Do they care? Yes, they do. I need to move beyond that barrier and allow myself to, like that friend I reached out to that I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, that I welcome the relationships, welcome the reach outs. The grieving that we do, and the last summit I spoke about this, can you find joy in grieving? Can you grieve and coexist with joy? and I spoke about, and I share this a lot, think about fabric. And my niece had an outfit made for me that she stood and watched the woman spin the silk threads to make the outfit. And I correlate that to having joy and grief coexist. So I'm going to do something else. We are going to ignite the spark, all of us. And James Mueller might have to, he might have to keep it on mute. That man, we've already had the competition who can roar the loudest. I want you to say the name of a treasured loved one. Some of us have 1, 2, 3. My case, I have 15 I could name. Say that out loud, as loud as you can. And I want you to clap when you say that. I want you, when you say their name out loud, I want you to clap. And then I want you to, is everyone, you don't have to be on camera. You don't have to be you don't have to go off of mute. But I want you to put in the chat that you've done that. So on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Mikey! That exercise I use in a lot of my consulting with clients, because grieving is also a part of you that you're afraid to acknowledge, and you're also afraid to feel those emotions. And Deb talked about the grieving process of losing a job. Amber talked about grieving her precious puppy. And we forget that legacy is how we show up. And I want to read from Tom Ziegler. He is my coach. I'm a Ziegler certified and licensed coach. And this, I sent it to David because this, wow. As a leader, your ultimate legacy is how you prepare those you lead and love to reach their fullest potential, and empower and equip them to leave a legacy of their own that ripples through eternity. This next 3 words is what just got me. Legacy inspires legacy. That is profound. The way that we handle our lives, situations, being a redhead, let me tell you, I'm not proud a lot of times of the way I handle situations, but coming back and having the courage to admit that you might have said something you probably shouldn't have said, to help repair relationships. David, what a risk and what courage it took for you to reach out to Nathan, not only in a text, but publicly. When we look at who we are, and all of you should have your definition. Mine is typed up and I have it in a frame where I can look at it. I could make some changes to it, but when I look at that, my legacy, because I've asked over the years, my legacy is my compassion. Never be ashamed of how you feel, your compassion. Jeff, God bless you. You send me some some of the most fabulous reminders of who you are and who I am. We're the same person. We're emotional because all of us, we're human. I walked, literally have walked through the fire with grieving. Like I said, 15 family members, friends, my car wreck. My car wreck was 11,908 days ago. Just last week, I had a pretty bad fall. I can't feel my knees. I can't feel my left leg. Well, this redhead, it doesn't matter. I still go out there. And I have a rescue pit bull who's very strong, 65 pounds, and it came from an abuse situation. And this guy is my everything. Along with my rescue cat, he was spoofed, and because of that, I went down. And I got hurt, stood back up, walked to the office because we're only 5 minutes from where we live in the office in the woods. And I sat down and thought to myself, you know, I had to go through the grieving of who I was prior to that car wreck. 11,908 days today, and I'm still grieving. But I was able to move beyond that with a breathwork exercise, with what Sierra Grana has taught me about feeling the emotion and not pushing it aside where it will come up later. Every day, we coexist with grief. And I want to share with you, at the last summit, I shared about a client's employee who quit celebrating Christmas because the mother passed away and she just couldn't. And her grief was pretty deep, and it had been 4 years. And I shared with her the legacy emotion. She has David's theme song as well on her playlist. And she celebrated Christmas in December last year because she put up everything that her mother loved, because that legacy inspired her. And her legacy of honoring her mother's legacy inspired her children. Every day we deal with a lot. We're human. Individuals that we come in contact with, I'm very protective of my private life. I'm very protective of what I do. And things that I do, a lot of folks, I tell them I will hunt them down and slap them if they tell anyone what I did for them, because it's not about the recognition. It's about how I feel helping someone realize and know that they are loved. When you believe in your purpose, and you don't have to raise your hand. You don't have to have a major purpose. You don't have to have a minor purpose. A lot of us think of it as the why we do things. Rising beyond that struggle to live, and that choice I and then the follow-up. Once you make that decision and you realize I'm all in, and I love a lot of you will say that on Facebook if I'm friends with you and see your post and you say, I'm all in, I love that. Because I think of someone jumping into a swimming pool where you are literally all in. Each scar, each grief, each part of our life, each level of transformation is living. And when we watch and observe someone who has lost someone very near and dear, maybe in a tragic situation, and we watch how they publicly go through this and are strong and resilient, they are inspiring the legacy for their family. Not and this is tough to say because we growing up, we are not taught how to deal with death. And in my family, you are not taught to deal with it. And you're not supposed to talk about it ever. And in my life, I applaud. I clap every chance I get. And I mentioned a little bit ago about a client. I was doing a training session. And as each employee walked in, I clapped. And I said, there's Sally, whoa, there's Steve, whoa. And they all sat down. And you want to talk about changing the atmosphere. Because they were coming in for some supervisory training. And they're like, oh. But because they were acknowledged and we clapped, that whole atmosphere changed. When I walk into, and you don't have to put your hand up or anything. When I walk into our office, it used to be the home of my husband's parents, and we purchased it in the estate when the last surviving parent passed away, and it's now our office. However, it's their home. It was their home for so many years. When I walk in, I scream and holler, hi, Mom and Dad. Boy, it's a great day. I freak out a lot of people if they're with me because they're looking around. Mom and Dad, really? And that I speak the name. I love speaking the name of those that have passed. And with friends, I acknowledge as much as I can. If I know the name, I acknowledge, speak their name. That brings, it's almost as if they're still with us because they are, their spirits are. And my personal cat rescue, I have to share this with you. When I walk in to the room to feed and I see Mimi, one of the senior special needs cats, she wobbles and stumbles. And I see her running off. And so I'll say, oh, I wonder where Mimi is. Where's Mimi? And then she comes around the corner and she's walking with her head held high and I'm clapping and oh, there she is. There she is. Those kind of greetings, and Michael Faber, is that how you greet your figures? Oh, yeah. Yes, that is. So very glad you're here. Speak the name of those who have gone on. Some days you'll be crying when you speak the name. Other days you will be laughing. So real quick, I want you to think of something. Let's see how much time I've got. A few minutes. Triggers. and I shared the trigger with you when I fell and hurt myself. It triggered that 11,908 days ago, that wreck, and coming forward and working through that trigger. But there's also triggers that are good, that remind you of someone. And I'm always saying, and since I couldn't pick on Sierra, I will say this out loud. My brother-in-law, who lost his battle with small cell lung cancer, being in the Army, being over in Vietnam, seeing he never could talk about it. I never wanted to hear it. I just wanted to be there for him. He swore like a sailor, only worse. And I grew up in construction, so I swear like a sailor. And Sierra, I truly believe the other day was channeling my brother Gary. And that was a trigger, a good trigger for me. And I even told her, you are channeling my brother-in-law, brother. And we have that. We have those connections with people because they remind us of those that have gone. And when I share that with someone, that, hey, this reminded me of my mother, father, brother, they are touched because then they think about, oh my gosh, he used to do that all the time too. And you have that connection. Amber, I would love to chat with you about your book with animals because in September, I will actually be speaking on leadership lessons from the raccoons, the anatomy of inclusion. I feed 45 to 50 raccoons, have interactions with them, and my personal cat rescue and possums and deer, and would love to chat with you. Let me wrap this up. You've done lots of exercises. No, I'm not going to have you do jumping jacks. Jeff's like, but think about and I'll read this because grief and joy, again, I'm bringing that up because we get hung up on, we get stuck in being sad and we can't move beyond that. Well, there, Amber and Sierra and everyone that's out there doing this work. Grief comes from loss, absence, or longing. Again, like Deb said, jobs, pets. I have sisters that grieve over soaps that get canceled because they love watching the soaps. It's heavy and can feel isolating, like my poem entitled Anonymous. Joy, wow, that springs from presence, being present, connection, gratitude. It's light and it is expansive, especially when you're in a group community such as this, and they're not opposite. Everyone thinks they are, but they really aren't. And we all have experienced that. Grief can deepen joy because loss makes us more aware of what we cherish. And my final thought, because of a conversation I had with a gentleman, Adam Latin, honor and cherish are two of the most profound feelings that we sometimes forget when we are dealing with grief because we cherish and honor And Dave, you know how I feel about you with what you are doing to keep your brother Joey life and everything that he was about, and Michael with his brother and the things. So right now, if all of you will just close your eyes, and I want you to say, and you can say it out loud or not, close your eyes, and I want you to say, I love me. And I learned that from Miss Sierra. I see she's on video. The hardest one to love is us. The hardest one to grieve is our loss of who we thought we were. So God bless you. And David, thank you again. And we will, wow, we've got quite an agenda coming up. And thank you.
You know,